What's up, yo? So proud of him. So anyway.
There he is, Randall Stewart Newman.
Randolph Scott. Sorry, I'm so dark. My lighting is terrible. I'm sorry. This is just audio, right?
It's audio for everybody, and then the people that pay $5 a month get the video. I do not give a shit, dude. I love you, Patreon people. I'm not saying I don't, but this is I literally just had my teeth dug at for a good hour and a half, and then I ran to Just Salad so I could get the honey crispy chicken wrap that I really seem to enjoy. That's only on the other side.
You were at a restaurant called Just Salad and you got a wrap. That's hilarious.
But it's the salad. It's the salad in a wrap. It's a salad in wrap form.
For those who are just keeping score, Josh Adam Meyers stays alive on honey chicken salad wraps and Viagra.
Crispy chicken.
I don't want to short shrift the chicken. It's not soggy chicken. It's not baked chicken, you sons of bitches. It's crispy. And it's not Viagra, it's Cialis. Next question.
We're talking about Jay's son's bar mitzvah.
Unreal.
Which is weird that you weren't there, Randy. I can't believe you
wasn't
boycotted
invited. I was getting my teeth scraped and then getting a honey crispy chicken salad.
Well,
we also had to hone the list down to the real, the close knit,
true family members.
Yeah. So I watched it online. It was pretty good.
I did a Zoom bat mitzvah for my niece Dana. Yeah, it was what it was.
I can just hear your mom saying to you, "Did you call your niece Dana?"
You take off May 3rd because Sophia's getting bat mitzvahed in Ocean City.
Listen, Joshy, I'm not happy that you're vaping, but if you're gonna vape during the bat mitzvah, turn your camera off. Vape under the screen, Joshy. The rabbi doesn't like it.
No, you fucking know everything you just said is 100% true, dude.
100 people.
We were in the Vatican when I took my mom to Italy, and I vaped in the Vatican. I vaped in the Sistine Chapel.
Well, that as Jews we can get behind that. I feel like disrespect that place all you want. Hey, they did it to us for years.
Hey, come on.
I'm joking. We're in it, right?
We're in it. And just like, I mean this to both you guys, because I think you guys are getting close. I think you might be at the 5-time club. We have you.
Oh yeah.
We have Jay. We have Wayne Fetterman of all people.
Love him.
Close behind that, Kim Thale from Soundgarden.
Thank you.
He's one of our doubles. He's getting close to 5.
We've done at least 3 at
live ones.
And live ones.
You've done the most. You guys have done the most.
I think we've done the most. I mean, we did 3 live ones. Then we did Wilco and Randy's Kitchen. We did Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and this might be our 5th.
Beck, Odelay.
Yeah. Oh, we did that one. That was another one, and then we did 3 live ones. So this is probably our 6th.
This is your 6th. And I'm not going to lie to everybody listening. Like, I'm more than happy to have the two of you guys on, and thank God you guys know this band.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we got into a pickle. Like, this was like such a weird shit to book, because I've heard of Sleater-Kinny. I know that Carrie, I want to keep saying Carrie Brownstein. Is it Brownstein or Brownstone?
Yes, it's Brownstein, but I do think that she's big enough that
do it, dude. You did it yesterday.
We've been dancing with Carrie Brownstein.
She's been drug dealing. Fred Armisen can't leave her alone. No. They're on IFC. Gang.
So that's a good place to just take a small diversion to just talk about how fucking great she is, because for her to be in this iconic epic band, and there's so much to talk about here. Like Jay and I have dug deep. I really do like this band a lot. And I mean, I can understand their importance and why they're so fucking cool. But the fact that she is able to go toe to toe with one of the funniest people on the planet and not feel like it drops off at all. Like the two of them are almost like a comedy team on Portlandia, is on one of the greatest sketch shows ever. I put it up there as one of the greatest sketch comedy shows of all time. It really
is good. Yeah, it really is.
Put it in she's like Bo frickin' Jackson. Like she's played 2 professional level sports
on the highest level.
All right, just so we know, 6 minutes and 43 seconds. First sports reference. I was waiting to see how long it would take you 2 Jews to kick out the jams.
For those who don't know Bo Jackson, he was one of the greatest running backs of all time and played for the Raiders and
behind O.J. Simpson.
For the Raiders. Well, he's one of the greatest running backs to never kill his wife and her boyfriend ever. And then he played baseball, and he was like an insane baseball player who like would run up he was a center fielder who would like to make a catch, would like make a catch and then run up the side of the wall like he's doing parkour. And he was just like this incredible athlete that it's amazing. To be good at one thing is incredible. To be good at 2 separate disciplines is it's almost beyond comprehension. And the fact that she does that, and I think it's all looped into one thing, is that she is very truthful and very honest in everything that she does. And I feel like that's what that band really is like a very heartfelt, this is our heart, this is the way we feel right now. And that's totally what this album is. And I feel like why Dig Me Out just connected with everybody on a huge level. And it came out at a time for us. Jay and I were in New York.
Yeah.
We're doing our show.
When did this officially come out?
So this is 97.
1997. Okay. So you're in New York.
We're in New York and we're doing our first TV show. We're doing Apartment 2F, which is like us and Zach Galifianakis and, Michael Showalter was a character in the show and Matt Price. There's so many great people.
Oh, God, wait, was that when you guys had the Clooney cuts?
Yes. Caesar
cut.
Oh
my God. Are you guys in From Dusk to Dawn?
We're in the band Len. Can you let us through here?
How come Len isn't on the top in the 500?
Which one was Len? Steal My Sunshine, or is it the other one?
Steal My Sunshine.
Great song. The girl in that I had the biggest crush on.
Me too.
She was preggers. In
that video. That's hilarious.
Which is now why I have a pregnant girl fetish.
There you go. There you go.
Well, she
really delivered in that video.
So our show was on MTV. So we were kind of dialed into the music scene, and what was happening in 97, if you remember the landscape, Eminem had just come out. Like Eminem's big debut Marshall Mathers album just came out.
Hi, my name is,
and that was everywhere. Cake, The Distance had just come out.
I remember.
Comfort Eagle was that album, and it's like post Nirvana, post kind of grunge.
Oh yeah, it's fading. Kurt Cobain died fucking 3 years prior.
Before. Yeah, Kurt Cobain died. Jerry Garcia died a couple years earlier, and you're like, what is kind of the next thing that's going to happen? And so we remember it because we were in New York and live in New York, sort of a much more New York version of Sleater-Kinny. Not that Sleater-Kinny wasn't, sort of everywhere, but the New York version of that group, and they came out of the same group, was Le Tigre. So when Le Tigre came out, that was like stuff you put on in your, Discman or whatever you're listening to. And you rode the subway listening to that music. And what I loved about it is like, it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, you're a man or a woman, you just felt like you could just kick ass and like drop kick someone in the subway if you're listening to that music.
So they both Le Tigre and Sleater-Kinny kind of influenced each other. They came from the Riot Girl, movement of these like female voices, hard punk rock vibes, like, feminist undertones within the music, power, badass, like straight, gay, like it kind of crossed all lines. And it was this power, these sort of like small, like not really massive groups when you think about it. It's not Chubbawamba. It's like 3 or 4 women in a group. Like you think about Sleater-Kinny, they had no bass guitar. It was just 2 lead guitars that they dialed down a notch and drums. And the drummer was amazing. The drummer,
Janet Weiss
was incredible. So much so that she started a band called Quasi.
I think you're right. It's Quasi. Yeah.
Quasi, which Randy and I saw in 2001.
2000. It was 2000.
Sorry, 2000.
Get it right, dude.
God,
get your dates right. Jesus,
sorry.
Jay.
We did bumper shoot.
He's got all bar mitzvah vibes. He's got fucking.
He's in a bar mitzvah haze.
She's got cha-cha slide on his brain.
He's got modest Yahoo head. Come on, get out of the haze, Jay.
So in the year 2000, we went to Bumbershoot, which is a festival in Seattle.
I've done it. Yeah.
You've done it.
So fucking good.
Yeah, they shut down. What's so cool about that festival, among some of the other ones, where it's like, I've never been to Coachella, which is like out in India, which is like the middle of fucking nowhere, but like where people like old Jews vacation.
Yeah.
And Bonnaroo is they take over the field. And it's farm in Manchester. Bumbershoot, people don't know. I don't know if they're still doing it, but it's literally right by the Space Needle, like the center of the city. Sub Pop Records has like a big store that you can just walk into, and it was really fucking cool, man. They just take over a section of Seattle.
I mean, that year in 2000 when we saw Quasi, and they were amazing. We saw Quasi in like a small kind of outdoor stage during the day. At 11 a.m., you talk Wayne Fetterman. Wayne Fetterman was with us, and we saw, because we had known about them. We had gotten the first album of the Black Keys' first album. We saw the Black Keys play at 11 a.m. like outdoors, and it was incredible. So I put them sort of in the same category as Sleater-Kinny in that it's just Black Keys were just two people. I'm like, how are they making this much sound? Sleater-Kinny as well. They bring so much sound, and it's just three people. And you're like, okay, that was what was kind of happening. And so we saw Quasi there, and they were amazing. We saw Elliott Smith at Key Arena.
Wow.
Rest in peace, which was really fucking cool. We saw the Pixies at like the outdoor field of where the University of Washington, where they play football. I mean, it was a remarkable experience, and you felt like that in 2000, that's just 3 years after this album is out. So you're in that vibe of like the post-grunge sort of, again, female-driven punk stuff that was coming out around that time.
You look at the pictures of them on the cover of this album.
Can you pull it up, Logan? Can you pull up the cover of the record for us? Because I don't think I've ever actually seen it. Like,
so it's so good. And I went down the rabbit hole as you're pulling this up, Logan. Thank you for pulling up. I went down the rabbit hole, and I highly recommend this, of watching a performance of them performing at Tower Records in New York, which was a place that we used to go in 1998. There's a YouTube performance of them performing at Tower Records. And they're just, I think the reason Jay and I like Sleater-Kinny so much is that there is, and why Carrie Brownstein can actually understand what it's like to be in a duo, so to speak. Her and Fred, so much of their two-person stuff is so good. She understands as a band, and Jay and I understand this because I think this is why we're so dialed into it as a two-person duo. They're having fun with each other in this performance. They're paying attention to each other. They're listening to each other. You see them share smiles back and forth, and you're like, holy shit. Corinne and Carrie are like on such a vibe, and you can tell they've been playing this music on the West Coast, in the Northwest for a long time, and then they bring it to New York, and they rock so hard. One of my favorite songs, a performance from this album.
Look at how young they are.
But that is every girl I had a crush on in high school. Yeah, I would say like 96, 97. That's Courtney Kelly. The girl that was bi, and she wore the old sweaters, and we used to go to Black Cat to go see we'd hang out at Tasty Diner and smoke cigarettes, and
these are the cool girls. These are the cool girls.
Yeah, dressed just. I got to be honest. Like I still look at Bjork in 1997, and I'm like, there's no cuter human being than her with those little popcorn ball heads.
Yeah, God, I love it. But look at Carrie Brownstein. If you looked fast and knew she wasn't holding a guitar, you'd be like, that's Sarah Silverman.
Yeah,
you look fast, and you're like, that's Janine Garofalo. 1997.
They all could be comics. They all could be comics.
I know all these women. Yeah,
that was the alt comedy scene in 95
in New York, where we were living.
what a kick-ass album cover. It's simple. It tells you who they, it's like everything you want. It tells you exactly who they are. It shows you who they are, so you know who they are. And then it's just like a chick holding a guitar.
Like this is like they were the antithesis of the Spice Girls. They were not manufactured in a
really good
lab.
Yeah. They were, and you think about that. So let's go back further. Like I love documentaries that like start on a timeline and then like, you know.
Oh yeah, you want to Tarantino, dude? And like, you want to slide back. You want to Alex Gibney it?
Get me to that fucking timeline. So let's go back to the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest.
Take us there.
In the 70s, and go back and watch like videos of young Ann and Nancy Wilson of Heart. Now they were sisters, but like two women, badass, like their shit was so cool. You listen to a song like Barracuda and you're like, okay, there's a basis for this type of stuff coming from this region of the country.
Yeah.
And so they, in some bizarre way, whether Carrie and Corinne were listening to any old school Heart from the time, I'm sure they're familiar with it.
I think you had to. Yeah. I mean, look, everything was influenced by Heart, and I'm talking Nirvana, Soundgarden. We had Ann on the podcast.
She's the best.
And we were talking about, the record we were doing had nothing to do with Seattle, but I asked her a million questions about the Seattle sound. And she was like, I was the godmother. They would hang out at my house.
Yep.
Chris Cornell on guitar and,
yep.
and, Kim playing this and Matt McCready here and Cameron here. It was, so she like, it was like a family. And that's what I think is so cool about this band, is that they did come from this area that is probably one of the most influential parts of the country for music in the last fucking 30 years.
Certainly the 90s.
Certainly the 90s. I mean, the 90s, it was huge. Like, I don't know who's coming out of Seattle now. And I also think that like what rock and roll is being made right now that's being enjoyed on a mainstream level. Now, these guys were punk. And again, they sort of fit I throw Le Tigre back out there because they all knew each other and whatnot. But like the stuff they made was so raw. I mean, we can get into the album if you want, because
we'll get into it. We're here. I want to tell everybody like who this band is, and just so everybody knows, because truth be told, full disclosure, I listened to this once. I'd heard of the band's name before.
Sure.
I'd seen them on like cool shirts, and I was like, ooh, like that's a shirt. That's a vintage shirt I would buy, just because I think it's so like, it was not cool ironic, but it's like, it's cool.
Cool as shit.
And then I watched Portlandia, but like I think mostly after it had already aired on IFC, and was like, oh, this show's great, and I love Fred, and this Carrie chick's really funny. Oh, and it's cool she was in a band. And then I see this coming up on the list. I say, all right, I'll give this a listen on a drive. I listen to it. At first, I do not like it. I'm not. A lot of it sounded very similar, and the voices. You saying not Carrie, Corinne. Corinne's voice is kind of piercing.
Yeah, it's like vibrato, and like there's like an interesting. It's almost like a
wailing.
She's wailing like she's in pain. This is like when my teenage daughters cry about shit. This is like you know what I mean? Like I'm like, I've heard this sound. I know this sound, and it's like so raw. It's again, but there are songs on here that are incredible. But continue on with the band.
So then what happens is, yesterday when I locked you guys in, I was like, all right, I really got to dig into this record. And I don't give 9 listens anymore. I give it one full listen all the way through, and then maybe I'll pick it up again if I really want to hear more. And I'm walking New York City, and from my yoga studio, I go to Moda in the West Village. I got some bad bones. My body's falling apart. I'm 43, and I put this on.
Pranayama breathing. Pranayama breathing.
I got my bag on. It's cold as fuck. I put this on, and I am in it, and I fucking fell in. I immediately go, oh, this band rules. This isn't. Yeah. Oh, I get it. This is right up my alley. This is right up my alley.
Yes.
Angsty, like really punk rock. I didn't know that the lyrics are these like, very like about against consumerism and are like, they're these liberal feminists. And but that there's like, this is a vibe that is something that I hate to say it, like if a guy was doing this, I'd be like, this rules. Immediately I would have gotten into it. But being that it was like a female singer, and the way her voice sounded, it took me It took me till yesterday to really dig into it, and I mean, I've listened to it nonstop.
To dig you out.
Oh, I don't. I've been dug
to dig you out.
Dude, it's a band that I am really excited to listen to the rest of their catalog. But just so everybody knows what's going on, Sleater-Kinny, they're formed in '94 by Corinne Tucker and Carrie Brownstein. The group's band name derives from Sleater-Kinny Road in Lacey, Washington, where one of the band's early practice spaces was located. Mm-hmm. Tucker was formerly in the influential Riot Girl band Heavens to Betsy. Did you know their music at all? Or
heard of it, but not like super familiar. Yes.
Great name though. Yes. Great name. While Brownstein was formerly in the band Excuse 17. They often played at gigs together and formed Sleater-Kinny as a side project from their respective bands.
Right.
When Heavens to Betsy and Excuse 17 disbanded, they basically got together, made this their primary focus. Tucker graduates from college, and she and then girlfriend, they're lesbo. I should say they're lesbians.
I think they go back and forth.
Okay, rock and roll, dude. That's so rock, dude. Just like Courtney Kelly in high school at Seneca Valley High School.
Look, they love who they love, and if it comes in the form of a woman or it comes in the form of a man, whatever. I've
gone on a couple of dates with a trans girl. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I watch Euphoria. I'm very progressive, just so everybody knows. They take a trip to Australia in early '94. On their last day there, they stayed up all night recording what would become their self-titled debut album. It was released the following spring. They followed this with Call the Doctor in '96. The album was written in 3 weeks and recorded in 4 days. Wow, I can't wait to listen to that. It's a great record, right?
Yeah, great.
What's funny was when I put out the bat signal of like who likes Sleater-Kinny, and people started pointing me in the direction of our friend Jonah Ray.
Yeah.
And I say, incredible. Jonah, you do this, and he's like, dude, I'm working nonstop. There's a chance, but I don't know. And he goes, well, what's the record? And I go, it's Dig Me Out. And he goes, that's not even their best record.
Of course, it's like that's where he is. He's the guy at the record store who's like, so I'm just gonna get this Sleater-Kinny album, and like 3 people in the record store is like, what? And then the guy's like, excuse me, and I love Jonah so much, but like he would know. He's like, that's not even their best record here.
But I mean, for it to be on the 500 greatest albums list. I mean, obviously, this is definitely, was this their most, well, here, we'll get to that. We'll get to all of that.
This was their breakout. So the other albums would be like, we're building the following, you understand this, man, we're building the following. And then this was like okay, now everybody knows who it's not just people in the Northwest. It's not just people where they're touring. It's like everybody knows who they are.
Is this their most I'm trying to think of how I can put it. Is this like okay, so it's like I'll do Nirvana because we're doing Seattle Sound. Where they put out what was the album before? Oh, God,
never mind. So I'll give you do the Beck like right. Mellow Gold is,
experimental. He's figured it's hip hop. It's
great. It's awesome. It's got some Beer Cans, an incredible song. I mean, there's amazing songs on it, but then you go to Odelay and you're like, okay, that's the breakout album. Like that's the one.
Very good.
Loser is big and all that other stuff on Mellow Gold, but this is like he did a couple of albums and then the breakout album came, and that's to me what this is. And the crazy thing is that like it all kind of happened at the same time, because didn't Odelay come out in 97? 96, 97.
Yeah.
So all this shit's coming out at the same time, which is remarkable and awesome.
Well, people, I'll say this and I am biased because I grew up during it, and you guys did too. You guys are slightly older than me, but you've always had your finger in the pulse of music.
Yeah.
It is the 90s. Like, I don't think any band, rock and roll wise, there hasn't been a movement in music the way the alt music scene was in the 90s.
Yep.
I think it's up there. It's bigger than new wave, in my opinion, because I don't think anybody like The Cure or PIL or anybody was on the cover of Time magazine, because that's how big that they were selling flannels at department stores for triple the price because they knew that was, Doc Martens made a fortune and continues to make a fortune. On people. They have stores all over New York City, and I'm like, they're still selling those. Like, what the fuck?
Kids, I can tell you because I have teenage daughters. They all That's what they wear. That's what kids wear right now. That's what they're wearing. I mean, the truth is, like, I guess you could say it's not really my genre of music, but my kids listen to it, trap rap and that sort of stuff. Now, the movement of that now is enormous, huge. Sure. And TikTok and all those things disseminate that out in a way that is like insanely huge. It's humongous. So there's that aspect of, I mean, that's going on. It kind of has merged. It flowed more into hip hop and whatnot. But
but in the late 90s, we were working at MTV doing our TV show. And so we were around, M2 was
Matt Pinfield. We'd hang out with Matt Pinfield, who knew more about music.
How you doing, Matt Pinfield?
I love Pinfield and Jake Fogelnest. But Jake obviously has gone on to do so much comedy and directing, and he's gone on to a totally different career. But he was like a teenager, and they kind of really introduced so many people to such great music. And I feel like Sleater-Kinny was a perfect MTV on the indie shows, on the Alt Nation or whatever it was, and then they were big on M2, and people would just turn on M2 to find out what new music was out there, and that was a very popular moment, and we just had it running in our offices all day long. So we were just aware of bands like Sleater-Kinny all the time in the late 90s, and they were making such an impact.
And like you'd occasionally see like Sleater-Kinny on like Beavis and Butthead. Like, I don't know if there is one, but I'm just like imagining them just like, these chicks rule. You know what I mean? Like,
well, there was another band that I really so much I got into them recently, but I follow the grunge page on Instagram, and they always post like live clips. I think it's Grunge Real, so I want to give them a shout out because they follow me and they love my shit.
Great.
But they posted a video of Veruca Salt doing Seether at some festival, and it fucking rules, dude.
So we know that girl.
I know that woman who's the lead singer. She was a new mom, so she has a kid the same age as my son, and so we would be in like these little like mommy and me or parent and me singing music classes, and she was in the music thing with us. And every time I would see her, because she kind of was around the Largo scene and she knew Greg Barron, I think she like did like lives like performances and did a show with him. So every time I would see her, I would request in the mommy and me thing when they said, do we have any requests? I'm like, can we do Seether by Veruca Salt?
She looks like it. She looks, she looks like? She looks like a way cooler Michael J. Fox's wife. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
red hair, both equally hot, but dude, she's like,
she's beautiful.
I watched that and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, she fucking rips that song.
Tracy Bonham.
I remember Tracy Bonham. Mother. Yeah.
I mean, that time was a time where
didn't we perform with Tracy Bonham, Jay?
I think we did on a show.
Yeah, Largo. Very fucking cool. It's like very, very cool person. Yeah, it's like there was great stuff coming out. And again, you sort of go back to Sleater-Kinny was like for so many people, you ask yourself, like, you want to be the favorite band of like a huge swath of people. You just do. Like it's almost cooler than being loved by everybody. Is like these guys are my favorite. These women are my favorite. This band is my favorite band. And for so many people, like, yes, there's a whole swath of the population who thinks Sleater-Kinny is PJ Harvey. They're not going to get it. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying, but I think completely different sound. PJ,
I agree, but I'm just saying that there's a whole
I know like
there's a whole group of people is like Sleater-Kinny. Isn't that PJ Harvey? No, it's not. You don't. My point is that they're not sort of in terms of like for every single music band. You have to know what you're talking about. So it makes them that much cooler when people do know them.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of what held them back? Not to say held them back, but held them out of more radio play and popular society, being the fact that they're women doing this. If a guy was the lead singer, you don't think that makes a difference?
I don't. I think what it was they created a sound that, like you said, takes a listen or two for the average person who isn't maybe attuned to wanting to love them from the get-go. Takes them a little bit of time to get into. So they never turned around and made a more accessible, massive pop album where they took all the sort of elements that they had and made it a smoother, more polished version that went to everyone. They just didn't didn't do an album like that. Instead, they stayed super true to what they do and just cultivated their own fans. So you think about someone like Courtney Love, if you like her or you hate her, whatever you want to do, the album she made with Malibu and all those songs on it, like that album was Doll Parts.
That's Live Through This. The celebrity sound is the one with Malibu, I think.
Yeah,
that's the second one. That was where she kind of went a little bit poppier.
Right.
Live Through This or Live Through This. That's the one that people say that Kurt was a ghostwriter of, and you can hear it. You can hear a lot of Nirvana influence, but it was still, I mean, dude, I remember girls dressing in the baby doll dresses and that being a movement as well.
So she made a more poppy album. Like it's almost like it depends on like they stayed true to themselves. That's what Sleater-Kinny was. That's why the people who love them still love them to this day. And that's why their diehards love them so much. They were sort of it was unfortunate for them on the massive level that what was true to them didn't kind of tap into a larger like jet stream that took them off into the national thing. They were just more hard and more like, hardcore. Now, other bands like Weezer's instincts, like Weezer stayed totally true to themselves too. They made the music that they loved, but it just so happened that their instincts were more poppy and accessible to everyone else. So they did the music that they loved, but it just so happened that people could play it and regular people who weren't like hardcore punk fans or whatever could just love it and sing it and remember it and things like that. These songs, like on this album, I mean, I want to get into them because like you start with Dig Me Out, which is probably one of my least favorite songs on this album. It's the title track. But like you go to song number 2, One More Hour, and that for Randy and I, at least, that's like our favorite song on the album.
I love it so much. And I don't want to like skip over Dig Me Out. Dig Me Out is like, Dig Me Out is like intense. It starts with a fucking bang. It's like Corinne Tucker is wailing away, and it is, it's just like it's a hardcore song. Dig me out of this mess. She's like, dig me out of the shit that I'm in. Like I'm in a bad situation and dig me out. And I think a lot of people feel that way a lot of the time. So they're tapping into this, like you were talking about angst before, of like, how am I going to get out of this situation? Like someone's got to come and dig me out. At least that's the way I read it.
And when it's coming from women, it's like, how am I going to get out of this shitty relationship?
It's angry. She's angry in it. It's desperate. It's angry. It's like, it's vicious.
Yeah.
They have said about this song, it completely exemplifies exactly who they are as a band, real and raw.
Yeah,
and I believe it. I believe
it. I get it. I get it, and I get it, and I love it for that fact. But it is not the song that I would want to play right away. Like the song I'd want to play is One More Hour because it's a little more melodic. It's got this insane, awesome kind of chorus that like they kind of pull back a little bit. They're both singing at the same time, then they break away. It kind of reminds us of our stand-up where they're both singing at the same time. Then Carrie Brownstein kind of backs off and she just like picks her moments to cut in. And there's this like trading off of the two of the Corinne and Carrie are like trading off back and forth. Well, you can see a real symbiosis. And for us, I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me of our stand-up. And as a result, I'm like, I love it. I'm so dialed into this song. It's a little more melodic, which for me is the stuff that I connect with more. And I can understand why people would be like, look, I'm going out to forget this dude. I'm going out to forget this woman. I'm going out and I'm going to get drunk and I'm going to go out and we're going to party hard because I'm in this shitty situation. I need to get out. That's what you put in on the car. You put Dig Me Out in the car on your way to the bar.
So Dig Me Out, I think, is a better song. I think it's probably the perfect song to open the record with, because I think if this is like their mission statement, like, hey, this is what we're going to do for the next 45 minutes, and this is who we are as a band, it's perfect. One More Hour is interesting, and it's funny that you said about the back and forth. It's about the breakup of Tucker and Brownstein. And before the release of the record, Spin published a controversial article discussing their relationship, their personal relationship, without their permission. And Brownstein felt that it completely invaded their privacy. Their parents didn't even know they were dating, or that she had dated a woman before. So it was horrible, and they were pissed. The lyrics are about their relationship. It's too,
crazy. It's like fucking Fleetwood Mac. I mean, you're watching this like. They're singing it. You can go your own way. I mean, there's like they're singing about this breakup, and yet there is such it's painful, but it's beautiful, and it's like,
and they need each other. They need each other in the symbiosis of the song to do in the song what they couldn't do in their relationship. It's freaking amazing.
Hey, you know what?
Think about that.
You know, and you know what's even funnier, and this is why I like doing this podcast, because as I was listening to One More Hour, I was like, this kind of reminds me of this band Gang of Four.
Yeah.
And we did their album Entertainment, and then the note that fucking Adam has that I already had on my notes, I said it sounded like Gang of Four, and it literally says they came up with the riff while listening to Gang of Four's 79's Entertainment on repeat, which the same thing I said to fucking Tom Morello, and that's why me and him are buddies, because I saw him at the Kiss show, and I go, hey man, I hate to bother you, can I ask you a question? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And I go, how influenced by Andy Gill's guitar playing were you? And his eyes like lit up, and he's like, oh my God, you heard. I was like, I it's great. And that it just opened up the door. So I can't wait to run into Carrie and say that to her.
I mean, exactly. It's a good nugget of information, but I mean, it is. So that's the performance at Tower Records in 1998 on YouTube, and it's so 1998. Jay and I lived in New York at that time. We went to that Tower Records all the time. We it just. Seeing them and seeing that performance of that song and the two of them just and when you know that it's about their breakup, it's like it's even better and just more interesting and more punk and more cool that they did that. But again, it is melodic, and as a result, you're like, oh, you guys can do this. You can do this too. And so it shows their versatility. So I mean, that is a song that Jay and I both just love on this album. Probably my favorite song.
I think they did this on purpose. They loaded, because I think this is like, nothing against the bottom half of this record, but I think this record is very top heavy. Like all the good songs that I really was like attracted to are all those like first, like, Dig Me Out, One More Hour, Turn It On is fucking incredible. The Drama You've Been Craving.
That is pretty. The Drama You've Been Craving is great because it's almost like, to me, and again, if you want to go back to Heart, the song Crazy on You is like the crazy song. I'm gonna go crazy on you. I'm gonna go crazy on you. That's the last thing anybody wants to hear in a relationship. Oh, you're gonna go crazy on me? Then I don't want to be in this relationship. The drama you've been craving. No one craves drama. Nobody wants that drama. But like the drama you've been craving is such a funny. It's an ironic, hilarious. Again, you can see the beginnings of the sharpness of a Carrie Brownstein wit, the drama you've been craving. Nobody craves drama, but it's funny that they put it that way.
For sure. So so everybody knows this record is their third record, produced by John Goodmanson, recorded in December 96 and January 97. It marks the debut of having Janet on drums. Music on the record is influenced by traditional rock and roll bands, while the lyrics deal with issues of heartbreak and survival. So that's basically everything we've been saying.
Yeah.
The album was acclaimed by music critics, praised the album's energy, their feminist lyrics. It's considered the band's breakthrough record, like we said, and is frequently included on several publications' best albums list. I had actually seen some stuff. I don't know if he put it in the notes, but some said this was like they put this. I want to find this. It might be on their Wikipedia page where they call this band the most important band of like. Hold on. I want to find this because
while you're doing that, while you're looking for that, I'm gonna just talk about the third album for bands, because I was watching this thing with Jimmy Iovine, who was the guy the producer who worked with rap artists and everything. I mean, he did Tom Petty, he did everybody. He was brought in to specifically do band's third albums. So Bruce Springsteen's third album was Born to Run. And it was like he was brought in because the third album is where you define it. Like the first two albums, you're sort of figuring stuff out. The third album is like a make or break album for you.
Yeah, that's it. Because the first one introduces everybody, and usually that's like a hit. you know, like you can say like the Killers. Like the Killers came out, their first record was their biggest one. Then they went all Bruce Springsteen-y on the second one, which really was great. And then by the third one, that is the make or break album where it's like, are you going to keep going and we're going to follow you, or are you just going to have your niche of fans that just follow you for those first two records?
So, but I would say go back and look at bands that you love and look at their third album.
Okay, Computer, Radiohead.
Yeah.
So you look at their third album and you're like, okay, this band is figuring out their voice. And so it's just something to keep in mind when talking about this.
Midnight Vault.
Odelay. Odelay's his third one. Don't forget, the first one he did was One Foot in the Grave.
That's right.
Second one is Midnight
Mellow Gold.
And
third
one
is Odelay.
Yeah.
So again, that third album is like really important. So it's just keep that in mind when thinking about this whole thing, because I do think it's
like
cool.
I like thinking about third records right now.
Right?
Like,
think about third records of other bands that you love. I mean, just again, Born to Run was like, that's when Bruce Springsteen like put it together. Not that the first albums weren't awesome. Like their Greetings from Asbury Park, amazing. The Wild, the Innocent, the East Street Shuffle, incredible. But Born to Run comes along and you're like, oh shit, that is his direction. Put it together, and that's where he's going forever.
I mean, Merry Christmas by New Kids on the Block.
Thank you.
They nailed it, dude.
They knew that they would be holiday fare from that point on.
This ain't some hanging tough bullshit. This is they found their voice.
This ain't some hanging tough bullshit. This is some hanging ornaments bullshit.
Yeah. So I found this. This is the thing that made me really just like, I was not shocked, but so there's these two critics. I'm going to fuck the first name up. Greil Marcus and this guy we talk about all the time that you guys probably know, Robert Christo.
Yeah.
They've each praised Sleater-Kinny as one of the essential rock groups of the early 2000s. Marcus named Sleater-Kinny's America's best rock band in 2001. And Tom Brahan of Stereo Gum called them the greatest rock band of the past 2 decades in 2015. I mean, do you guys agree with that? Or is that completely...
I don't know if
home team, like, you know, favoritism.
I can see how someone would feel that way, and I could see how a rock critic would feel that way and be able to make the case for that. Like, I understand because they rock, their stuff is. I don't know how accessible it is to, like we've said all along, to the mass group. You know, if you love them,
I think a band like Wilco and their Yankee Hotel Foxtrot album, like that band is a rock band. I think a band, if you're going to say like rock band, I think a band like the Hold Steady, like the music.
Yeah, but I agree. But no one's going to feel that way because no one, you know, not enough.
I mean,
the
Hold Steady are like, they're like critic darlings that nobody knows.
And they're incredible. And it's a bummer that nobody knows them. But like, you talk about rock, Sleater-Kinny has fans, but I think, like you said, you know, Josh, a lot of people will listen to their stuff right off the bat and be like, it's not for me. It's too hard to get into. The stuff is too discordant at times. And it's like, it just sounds like because there's no bass, there's nothing to like kind of hook in and groove into, like on a bass line sort of
sounds
sense.
Like they're doing like a high wire act the whole time. Like,
well, it sounds like the way
you fall apart at any moment. Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like the way you feel when you're at in a very critical part of your relationship at all times. You're like, I'm on the brink. I'm crazy. You know, you ever had those like head spinning moments where you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do here. I want to break up with this person. This person's bad for me, but I can't quit them and this and that.
I'm crazy for you.
I'm gonna go crazy.
I'm crazy for you.
I love it.
But then there's other stuff going on, like when you start getting into the album, like a song like Words and Guitar.
Words and Guitar mixes both of those things. Words and Guitar is like it's really hardcore, and then they are like, oh, we can do a melodic, like the melodic chorus of Words and Guitar, I think is maybe my favorite moments on the album.
Yeah, that's like a very Talking Heads vibe to it. To me, it was.
You know, Words and Guitar has that, but then like Little Babies kind of has
Little
almost
Babies.
like a poppy, like a
nursery rhyme, or like our cheerleaders, like cheerleaders, like, you know, there's an almost like an, oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind.
There's
Mickey.
like a Go-Go's, like a hard edge Go-Go's vibe to like that. that part of that song, which is really cool and really fun and really different. And I think, I agree with you as the album comes to an end. I love Buy Her Candy, but like the last 3 songs I would not stack them up next to
the top half. No. And, but, look, Jenny's a good album closer, but it's not, Dance Song 97 is like kind of Devo-esque. That's what I wrote. And then, and Things to Say I didn't even have an opinion on. And there, like I said, I don't look at this record as a bad record at all, because the second half isn't nearly as strong as the first. That's how a lot of people make records. They always make side one the shit. And side 2, because this isn't like a concept record where it's all culminating until, to eclipse at the end of Dark Side of the Moon. But this is a record that I mean, as I listened to it, my attention did start falling off round about I'd say about like song 9.
Yeah. So
when we got to Now What You Want, I was like, all right, it's not bad. It's just nothing is sticking to me.
I mean, if I had to rank my favorite songs on the album, I would say One More Hour is my favorite song on the album. It's just, I think it's the coolest song. To me, it's the most representative of this band. I know they say that Dig Me Out is, but to me, it's the most representative of everything that the band can do. I do like Words and Guitar next, then Little Babies next. Then I do like the drama that you've been wanting. So like those and Buy Her Candy, those are like my favorite songs on the album. The others are, I can understand why people like it. It's not like a situation where I'm like, what? Why would anyone like this? I'm like, I get it. I fully get it. And when you're in the mood, and you described earlier, like I was walking through New York City. I had just done my pranayama breathing. I had just laid in corpse pose for a while.
My ujjayi breath. My ujjayi.
Did I ever tell you that? Did I do this in the show one time? I think I probably did.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
So I was doing hot yoga with my wife, and we were at this studio here in LA, and I did it. And for the first time, I'm starting to do it. And of course, I didn't want to do it. But you have to have so much time to like do it, just because it takes a long time. It's hard.
Yeah, you got to shower. You got to shower afterwards.
Yeah,
it's a whole day.
It's a whole day of stuff. And it's hard, and it pushes you, and it's stuff that you can't do. I'm like, I don't need to be reminded of stuff that I can't do. So I go in there and I'm like, I got to figure out some way that I can hook into this. And the person was calling off all the poses and stuff. And they called one of the poses in my brain, in the back of the room while I'm sweating and just trying, Johnny Shavasana. It's actually Janu Shavasana, but Johnny Shavasana is what I heard. And to me, I thought, and I started the rest of the class like developing my bit, that Johnny Shavasana is what the guys on The Sopranos called the one guy who did yoga once just to make fun of him. Hey, it's a regular Johnny fucking Shavasana over here. Why don't you put your head in your fucking balls?
Why don't you bend over and suck my dick?
Why don't you go into corpse pose, you Johnny fucking Shavasana? I'll put you in a corpse pose right now, Johnny fucking Chirac. So I start to do that bit after class in front of
everybody.
A circle of people that are standing outside sweating, and one of them's about to pass out and everything. And then the teacher comes up and with no humor whatsoever is like, it's Janu. I was like,
oh, fuck off.
I waited for a second and I was like, oh, yeah, that's Johnny.
You went back to the bit?
No laughs from anyone.
For some reason, as soon as you said Johnny Shavasana, all I heard was Johnny Shavasana. I just do it because I have to supplement all the other stuff that I do, and I went to a fucking orthopedic surgeon.
Dude, it's smart and it's great and it's fun. But my point is that like you come out of that, you're a little bit spent emotionally, physically, and whatnot.
But there is, okay, so I know this seems like it's a disparate thought and we're just, riffing here, but there is an equivalency with listening to this album. This album is an investment of your effort and your time. It doesn't come easily. They don't make it easy for you. It's not like plug in and just sit back and kick back and relax. This is, you get into the mood, and if you're not in the mood, you have to do a little bit of work to like burrow in and figure out this album and connect with it. but when you do, it feels so good. It scratches a deep, deep, deep itch inside of you. It
really does. Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. So when music taps into something inside of you that you didn't know that it was going to tap into, to me, that it doesn't matter whether you are going to be whistling or singing that song later in your life. It is achieving something really deep. And I think it scratched the deep itch inside of them, what was feeling important to them. And as a result, that gets passed on to their fans. And I think that's why fans love them to this day. That's why people wear their shirts around all the time. That's why people talk about when they saw them at Bumbershoot or when they saw them in Portland or Brooklyn or wherever they saw them. And it feels like this band, people claim them as theirs. And you understand it when you understand what it can touch inside of you.
Would you rank them in the top 10 female driven rock bands in music history?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, we have our own, who do
you think is the most prolific female rock band? And I mean, maybe I'll even like open it up to her, just like female lead singer, I mean,
we are the biggest, and I can speak for myself, but I know I'm speaking for Jason here too. Amy Mann fan ever. She is such a brilliant artist. Her music is so good. Kudos to John Bryan for, producing some of her best stuff, but she's remarkable. And like, when you look at the career she had, where she was like huge until Tuesday, huge right off the bat, and like huge, but still back then singing about like, don't tell me to shut up. I mean, it's like, don't shush my voice. You know what I mean? Like about what this is. And that's what she was doing in the 80s. Then in the 90s, she like does two of the greatest albums. I would put top to bottom. Bachelor Number 2 is one of my favorite albums of all time. It literally rivals one of my favorite. It could be my favorite album of all time. And Lost in Space are like two just incredible. I put those two albums up against anything. And she actually introduced us to this little known singer in the 1970s named Judy Sill, who incredible like singer songwriter who like
she was
got
crazy.
Arrested because her boyfriend would like break and enter and steal shit, and like she would write songs about it. And then she called out David Geffen. So she was on David Geffen's fledgling label at the very beginning, and she called him out as gay in the 1970s, or just dropped it in like public, and then he shelved her shit and she like died early. It's just a crazy story.
Crazy story. Talk about that. That's actually a great story.
And her music is unbelievable, and she's a great beauty. And she also wasn't beautiful. I think she's pretty, but like it wasn't like gorgeous in that sort of way.
Sure, but you're talking about, I mean, look, I'm talking about like, who are you? I mean, Heart, of course. PJ Harvey, you mentioned PJ
Bonnie Raitt. Well, we were saying Bonnie Raitt, PJ Harvey, Bonnie Raitt.
But Bonnie has more of a blues. I'm talking like rock and roll. I'm talking rock and roll. So PJ Harvey, she's won the Mercury Music Prize twice, which is damn near impossible to win it once. And in England and in the UK, that's the most prestigious award. That's how I heard about her. And then I've been doing this podcast. I've listened to all of her records, and she's just, I mean, she's one of the coolest. Like, I think she's one of the coolest people ever to walk the face of the earth. Heart. Who else? Like who else is in the discussion? Sleater-Kinny. Who else?
Yeah, I would absolutely put them in the discussion. Jay, who else? I mean,
I think when the Go-Go's came out, because
Go-Go's,
but they were more new wave. They were more new wave.
They are new wave, but because then it gets all convoluted. We have to, because if we're going to put Amy Mann in there, we have to put Go-Go's. I would say. In my opinion, I would throw someone like Beth from Portishead. I love that band. And
I mean, you gotta talk Patti Smith.
Patti
Smith. I mean, she was incredible. I mean, where do you put a Stevie Nicks? Where is she not rock? Is she more pop? I mean, like
I just saw Stevie Nicks in there. I just saw her live with.
I just saw you and I went to that same show, and
I didn't see anybody. I was tripping.
I know you were.
She started doing the famous Stevie Nicks twirl, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like, that was game.
And meanwhile, I was like, "Don't break your hip."
Would you put Hayley Williams from Paramore in there?
It's just music I've never listened to, but I mean, I've seen the live performances. Big J really likes
huge Paramore
and dude, like you see her control an audience and people. I've seen people write about it recently that she's one of the best frontmen of all time, and like she's incredible. I just don't ever listen to the music, and that's a little bit after. You know that, because would you call Paramore emo? Is it?
I would say more like a punk rock-ish type now, like new age punk rock type music, I would say. I think that's what they're classified as.
I mean, I loved X, you know, that band, and that woman's voice is incredible.
They have 3 albums. On the top 500, X.
I mean, the song Los Angeles is like, even though it's a punk song and it kind of, it's punk it was considered punk back then, but I mean, I think it's unbelievably like poppy in like the coolest way ever. So, I mean, we listen to a lot of female driven stuff. Like in my house, I have a record player and I play tons, and I live in a house with 3 women. So like I can't just jam like male driven stuff down people's throats. I just can't do it. So
you're listening to Henry Rollins' Liar over and over.
Yeah.
I'm a liar. Hey, girls, you like this
right,
stuff?
Guys? You like that?
Turn off your Alanis Morissette bullshit.
Anytime I put Alanis Morissette, you could put her up there. She was fucking amazing for a couple albums. Like,
I mean, but there's like, and it's influenced new people. Like there's a band out of New Zealand called the Beths that
the Beths are so great. The Beths are great. I mean, there's so much great female driven music now. A lot
Florence
of it is
and the Machine.
Florence and the Machine feels a little more poppy, but like, I mean, I can't tell you
she's rock. No, she's rock. I mean, if we're putting it, look, this is a little bit different. This is like undeniable rock and roll.
Like you're not trying to fit it into like a category.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put Slater. I think Sleater-Kinny is up there at the top.
Top 10 easily.
Top 5.
We're gonna I want all the fans listening when we post this, and maybe I'll put up a video.
You forgot this person. You forgot that.
Yeah.
I mean,
tell us who we forgot, because we're
so now my kids listen to, and I love like all of this stuff, like Phoebe Bridgers and Lucy Dacus and Claro, and I mean
Beach
Bunny, as
Beach
like
Bunny and Baba Doobie and
Biba Doobie and Always and like all these. I mean, there's just so much. It's so funny because now it's like, because we listen to so much new music all the time. Like I just love hearing new music.
Indie rock is dominated by female bands.
It is now. The stuff that's being played right now, it is 70%. It feels this way, 70% female. That if you hear a male indie rock song or a male driven indie rock band, you're like, that is different. It's crazy how it's like it's switched in that way, and this has been in the last couple of years. So, you know, what you can say is, I'm sure a lot of those people today were like listening to Sleater-Kinny. I'm sure a lot of them were, you know, kind of
influenced by,
exactly.
So you guys, just before we end this, I want to get you guys out of here. I want to eat my Just Salad honey crispy chicken wrap.
You want to eat your Just Salad thing that isn't salad? Sure,
it's a wrap. It's a salad and a wrap.
It's a wrap, Jai. Put your wrap below the Zoom while you're doing the bar mitzvah.
I know this is like an old commercial from, like, you know, where's the salad? Where's the salad?
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. She's like, salad? It's in the.
All right. Do you guys know how Carrie suddenly ended up doing Portlandia with Fred Armisen? I don't have a real breakdown of that.
Okay.
And
so I mean, I'm sure that. I don't, but this is my educated guess.
Take a guess.
Fred Armisen was doing a lot because he could drum, and he was doing Ferocito, and he was doing
sort of music. From bands.
Jared, why are you dressed like why are you dressed like you just went to a German sex club? Jesus Christ, dude.
Jeremiah, I didn't realize you were the lead singer of the band live.
No, dude. He looks like the keyboardist from Rammstein right now. Just like Ich mach nach Bescheise, eben der Becheise meise nein. 9. That is still one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life.
Why is your screen name Crystal Knocked?
Are you one of the characters from Nicolas Cage's 8mm?
Why is your Twitter handle the Fourth Reich?
I mean,
loving you is wrong. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right.
He looks like he's going to be like, yeah. So continue talking about the Sleater-Kinny.
Let's hear the little Jews talk about Sleater-Kinny.
Let me ask you something. Is it safe? Is what safe?
Is it safe?
Is it safe?
Is it safe?
Marathon Man. All right.
Are we recording?
So I stopped it like right before that last question that you did. So it wasn't much. It wasn't
recording.
much. Really?
Logan, does anybody else say recording still?
Listen, guys, I got a honey chicken.
Yeah.
Oh, yours is recording. It's recording on your end.
Yeah,
now.
It's recording. All right.
So you're good.
Thank you, Logan.
By the way, let's leave all of this in.
Yeah, please. I've got it all on audio. So it'll drop out. So just hopefully the video is still transferred for the Patreon people. But make sure, Pete, when you use my audio, put in us making fun of Jeremiah. Okay, Peter's not here right now. He's in DC.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right. So the question was, you were taking it of what you think. Take it. Bye, Logan.
Bye, Logan.
Bye.
The question was what?
How do you think Carrie ended up suddenly? Yeah.
So here's how I think Carrie ended up on Portlandia is that I believe, and this is from hanging out with Fred.
No, they did. They filmed some sketches. They filmed
right.
Some
No. But how did it start? I think is to go back further. So Fred was in bands. He sort of came from the music scene in Chicago, and and I'm assuming, I mean, he knows everything about music, and he was in a punk band as well, played the drums. So and would do a lot of music-based comedy when he would do live stuff. So my guess is as he was getting bigger, he probably opened for bands or was at music festivals where bands were, and maybe people knew of his band and whatnot. And then when you start hanging out with Fred Armisen, you can't help but start like riffing and doing bits. You literally start hanging out with him and like, you just start riffing and doing bits, and he's wonderful at like just picking up. It's so funny. Like we could not see him for 2 years and then immediately start doing bits with him. And like, you just start doing bits. It's so fun. So what I bet happened, because not everybody in the music world can riff like that. What I bet happened is that like he was hanging out with Carrie Brownstein. He was probably a huge fan of Sleater-Kinny, and she knew who he was because he was famous and whatever. They were just kind of like talking, and they probably just started riffing, and they're like, okay, he probably was like, yeah, this person is great. This person's so funny. She's classic and she's incredible and kind of a diamond in the rough, because people wouldn't know that she could do comedy or in any way. And they just started riffing in really funny ways and started coming up with characters and stuff. And so they brought those characters and ideas. And originally we heard from someone who developed it at IFC that originally they had these ideas and they shot some sketches, and it was sort of like, where does this thing take place? And they were living in Brooklyn at the time, both of them. And they were like, let's do it in Brooklyn. I mean, these characters are all like people who exist in Brooklyn. And I think, what was developed was, well, where else could it be? Because I don't know if everybody's going to want to see a show about Brooklyn. I just don't know. But like, where else could it be? Anywhere else? I think was the question that was asked, and started talking about it. Well, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and maybe this, and no one's ever done a show about this. And then suddenly they start talking and developing, and it's like, oh my God, well, what if like all these people exist in Portland? I mean, Portland and Brooklyn are very similar.
Very similar.
What if, my wife lived in Portland for 7 years. She went to school there, and then she lived there went there for a few years afterwards. She lived there. And so it was like, she knows that it is even in the 90s, it was a very distinct place. She was there in 95, 96 as Sleater-Kinny was coming up. So I think they started to say, okay, what if Portland itself is the through line? All these like, there you go. There's and thus became Portlandia. And so it was a collaborative effort between the smart people who are at IFC. And I don't normally say that, but there's one executive who's really smart, Evan Shapiro, who then went on to do CISO, and now he's doing other great things. He's one of the smartest people in the industry. Like, he's really, really smart, asks the right questions, supporter of artists, loves it, doesn't have to insert his own, you know what I mean? Is just like a good person who helps lift up and ask the right questions to get you to the right place. He's that sort of a guy. And so, I think their collaboration with good people over there then pushed them into this direction where they it became what it was. But my guess is it started with them like at at a festival and realizing that they really liked each other and enjoyed.
And then
riffing.
also realizing that they had a chemistry together, and they both had an ability to skewer their own super like culture that they lived in. So like the people that they skewer on Portlandia are, in my opinion, who they're roasting are people that they are friends with, that they know, that are in their communities, that are big fans of them. So there comes with that skewering and roasting a ton of love. We all know we only roast the people. When roasts work, it's when it's done with love. So do we love Jeremiah? Yeah, we roasted the shit out of him. It's like it came. He wasn't like, oh, these guys hate me. He knows that like all of that was done with love, even though as a German man, he wants to take our throats and rip them out. We understand that, Jeremiah.
Hates us. You hate us.
You hate us. But I mean, he wants to exterminate all of us, but it's done with love. It's extermination done with love.
He cries as he hits the switch to the shower. Oh, it's so sad.
Anyway.
All right, I got to eat this wrap. Let's get you guys out of here, man, because you guys, I'm going to see you guys on Sunday, so I can't wait.
I love it, man.
All right, we kind of mentioned this, but what's your favorite song on this record?
One More Hour. That's
One More Hour all the way. One More Hour.
I'm gonna say "Dig Me Out," man. Dig Me Out or "Turn It On." I really did dig that. What's your least favorite song, or do you have one? A tough question. I know.
I'd say probably Dance Song 97.
Or
Things You Say. I'm with you. The end of the album kind of is not my favorite.
I think It's Enough or Not What You Want. Like those were songs that I didn't dislike them. They just didn't stick with me.
Yeah. Buy Your Candy. I don't think there should have been a ballad on this. All right. Can you fuck to this record?
Yeah, if you're angry. No, absolutely. You can definitely have some to say. So on the iTunes, I just want to say like it's fitting that we're doing this with you. It's like I know you got us quote unquote at the last minute. Sorry.
You can do every episode if you guys want to. I'm letting you know that you, Wayne Fetterman, Big J Okerson,
I love
Kim
it.
Thale, fucking Alec, who's the guy? Alex Sulkin can do it.
Yeah,
everyone.
I love
like
him. He's the best.
We have a good group of people that come back a lot and
regulars.
It's great. Yeah.
So, but here's how it's described on here. So on Dig Me Out, this is the iTunes description. On Dig Me Out, Sleater-Kinny's perfect the twin voice, twin guitar attack to their first two records. Okay. That is why we are doing this. It is, as they say in the Hebrew, and I'm sorry, Jeremiah, you're going to upset. There's a word called it's beshert. It is meant to be. It is blessed. It's beshert. It's meant to be that we were supposed to do this. And so that's the way we feel.
Yeah. All right. And your final thing, what would be your elevator pitch to get somebody to listen to this? And I'd love to hear both of yours. What do you think?
Go, Jay. You do yours first, Jay.
I would be like, so this music represents a specific time. And I feel like when you want to pump yourself up to something that you have, like to go out, to go do something, to go out for a night, to party, to get yourself up for something, and you need energy coursing through your veins and you don't want to drink a 5-hour energy drink, listen to this album. I would say give it 2 listens, and I'd be like, this will be something you find yourself randomly coming back to when you want to be in that mood. And then before you know it, it'll be something you listen to when you aren't even trying to pump yourself up.
Yeah. What do you got, Randy?
I'm going to be like, you want to be cool? You want to fucking be cool? Get to know this album. You'll find your songs on this album. They might not all be for you. It's a great pregame drinking. Like, we're going out. Let's put this album on. Let's get the energy going. Like, you put it on and you're ready to go. It's great if you're like upset going through a breakup. You put the headphones on and you fucking walk the city. That's great too. But it is. And I would say, start with One More Hour. And then I would say, go watch the Tower Records 1998 performance of One More Hour. Then start doing some reading about these guys. And the fact that you know Sleater-Kinny, this is what I would tell my daughters. I'd be like, you need to understand this band, and I would send them One More Hour and be like, listen to this. You'll love this. This is so cool. And understand who these guys are in like the state of music and what they are, because they're important. And for you to know that, you walk into your college dorm next year and be like, oh yeah, I know One More Hour, Sleater-Kinny. I know, I know these songs. You're gonna be the coolest fucking person out there. So you might as well do it.
I will say this. I don't think I've listened to a record on this podcast that I've gone from hate to love in such a quick turnaround. I mean it. Like, first listen, I was like, fuck this. Second listen, I was like, This might be one of my favorite records that I've heard.
I get it. You're like, I get it. You're like, I get it. It clicked.
But I would say this is the perfect record to do Ujjayi breath to. When you're doing that Ujjayi, you get that Ujjayi breath.
When you're eating a crispy honey chicken wrap.
You can't wait, dude. I can't wait. It's my favorite rap right now.
Tear into it.
Oh, I'm going to. All right, guys, promote away. Anything you guys want to promote?
Go ahead, Rand.
So when does this drop? Do we know? Is this dropping
Wednesday.
soon? Okay, great.
Wednesday.
Okay, so we're going to be in Phoenix at the end of this month doing shows at Stand Up Live. If you're in Phoenix, come see us and tell us you heard us on this podcast because we love it and we love meeting people who listen.
We got your April Fool's Day plans.
Yeah, man. March 30th, March 31st, and then the first we'll be at Moon Tower with these guys doing a bunch of songs. We'll be there on the show every night, opening it up. I'm so excited. We're going to bring some songs we've never done before, so that's going to be really fun. And then we're in Minneapolis. If you go to supersklars.com, you can find all of our dates. We're waiting to see if we're going to get another season of the Nosebleeds, which was the show we did for UFC Fight Pass. If you haven't seen that, go to our Instagram at Sklar Brothers, follow us, and you can watch the first episode for free on YouTube. It's been watched over 1 million times. We love it. We're so excited, and hopefully we get a chance to make more of those things. We also have 2 podcasts, Dumb People Town, which Josh has done and has been amazing on. And if you like sports, if you're a sports fan, we do a sports show called View from the Cheap Seats. Both are on All Things Comedy. But again, just follow us and you can check all that shit out. And we love you. We love doing this show. We love being a part of this universe.
I to everybody listening, listen to their podcast. You guys are such great broadcasters. It's you really, you guys have such good chemistry. I wonder why. Mm-hmm. You broke from the same nut.
We're Sleater-Kinny fans.
You're Sleater-Kinny. I love you guys. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Okay.
Love it, buddy.